The drums of Hanseong thundered across the palace courtyard, each beat echoing with destiny. Nobles gathered in hushed expectation, their silken robes sweeping over polished stone. Tonight, the emperor would bind Joseon's fate to the faraway Kundari kingdom. And the price of that alliance stood trembling behind a lattice screen. Princess Tolani Okafor, youngest of 10 daughters, adjusted the weight of her beaded hairpins. The embroidery on her hanbok shimmered under torchlight, but she muttered under her breath, "This head is heavy like mortar." Her maid, Amara, bit back a laugh. "My lady, if anyone hears you complain, they will think you're ungrateful." "Ungrateful!" Tolani rolled her eyes. "I traveled across seas only to be auctioned like yam in the market. What is there to be grateful for?" Before Amara could answer, the court eunuch barked for silence. The emperor himself entered, robes like a mountain of gold. Beside him, 2 princes knelt. The first, Crown Prince Kong Jae-won, wore a smile so sharp it could slice bamboo. His eyes gleamed with ambition. He bowed with exaggerated grace, as though already savoring the throne. The second, standing in shadow, was his younger brother, Prince Kong Minjun. Unlike his polished brother, Minjun radiated something raw, battlefield steel rather than courtly silk. He wore no smile, only a permanent scowl. Rumors whispered he was cursed. Whenever a woman touched him, he sneezed uncontrollably or broke out in rashes. Palace gossips called it the allergy of the unwanted prince. Tolani studied him carefully. His jawline was carved like granite, his posture regal even in disdain. A pity, she thought, that he probably couldn't survive a hug without collapsing. Welcome to Munlyt Stories, where Munlyt meets myth. Love timeless tales? Then hit like, subscribe, and join the circle. Every story begins with you. The emperor's voice boomed. Princess of Kundari, tonight you choose your betrothal. Crown Prince Jae-won, the heir of Joseon, or Prince Minjun, the general of 10,000 men. Gasps swept the hall. Everyone expected her to pick Jae-won, the safe choice, the crown itself within reach. Tolani, however, remembered her kingdom's proverb. When you see 2 paths, choose the one with thorns. At least you'll know you're alive. She stepped forward, her voice ringing. I choose Prince Kong Minjun. The hall erupted in shock. Courtiers fanned themselves, muttering prayers. Jae-won's smile faltered, while Minjun sneezed once, twice, 3 times, in rapid succession. Tolani couldn't resist. "Oh dear," she said, smirking. "I haven't even touched you yet, and you're already allergic?" A ripple of horrified silence followed. Then, against all odds, Minjun's lips twitched into the faintest grin. "You are bold, princess," he muttered. "Most women tremble before me." "Well, I am not most women, and you don't scare me at all," she shot back. The emperor cleared his throat, eyes narrowed, but a spark of amusement hid behind his sternness. "Very well. It is decided. The wedding shall be in 1 month." As drums thundered again, Tolani glanced at Minjun. He met her gaze, a mixture of annoyance and reluctant curiosity. This was not the story the court expected, and Tolani knew, deep in her bones, it was only the beginning. The palace had not stopped buzzing since Princess Tolani's declaration. Ministers muttered in corners, courtiers whispered in corridors, and noble women gossiped as though their tongues had no curfew. Why would a foreign princess choose the cursed prince? Perhaps her people value sneezing generals? Maybe she mistook him for the handsome crown prince. Tolani ignored them all. She had learned long ago that gossip was like smoke, suffocating if you chased it, harmless if you waved it away. What interested her more was her new husband-to-be, the so-called unwanted prince. Prince Minjun, on the other hand, wanted nothing to do with her. Since the betrothal decree, he had perfected the art of avoidance. At banquets, he sat across the hall. At ceremonies, he left the moment she entered. And if, by fate's cruel hand, they crossed paths, he would sneeze so violently one might think he'd inhaled a peppermill. Tolani found it amusing. One night, determined to corner him, she followed him into the palace library. He stood by the shelves, unrolling a scroll with all the seriousness of a scholar. She slipped in behind him, quiet as a cat. "You know," she said, startling him, "most men run toward their fiancés, not away from them." Minjun stiffened. Most men do not risk suffocating from an allergy every time their fiancé so much as blinks in their direction. Tolani leaned against the table, smirking. Ah, so I am your doom. Should I carry a handkerchief for your sneezes, or a coffin for your funeral? He shot her a glare, but his lips betrayed a twitch. You find this amusing, don't you? Deeply. She crossed her arms. You're the most terrifying man in Joseon until a woman waves at you. Then suddenly you are a child at Pepper Harvest. Minjun's eyes narrowed, though not with anger, more like disbelief at her audacity. Princess, you are playing a dangerous game. Life is dangerous, she replied lightly. Besides, someone must laugh at you. Everyone else looks like they'll faint if they breathe wrong in your presence. For a moment, silence stretched between them, broken only by the crackle of lantern light. Then, against his own better judgment, Minjun chuckled. A low, rough sound, like stone cracking open. Tolani's eyes lit up. See, you do have lungs for laughter. I was starting to worry you only sneezed. He pinched the bridge of his nose. You are insufferable. And yet, you will marry me. He turned away, ears faintly red. Only because you insisted? Of course, Tolani said sweetly. Who wouldn't insist on marrying a man allergic to her very existence? That night, Minjun retired to his chambers, but sleep evaded him. He replayed her words, her fearless grin, the sparkle in her eyes. For years, women had treated him as cursed, untouchable. But this Kandari princess, she treated him like a joke, and somehow that unsettled him more than fear ever had. In her own chamber, Tolani lay back and laughed herself to sleep. She had chosen the thorn path indeed, and the thorns, it seemed, were already pricking. Preparations for the royal wedding moved at lightning pace. Seamstresses sewed day and night. Palace cooks tested menus until their sleeves were stained with broth, and ministers drafted endless scrolls of ceremonial protocols. Tolani, meanwhile, was having the time of her life. Every morning, maids swarmed her chamber to dress her, powder her, and rehearse her bows. She endured it with exaggerated sighs. Must I bow so low, Amara? If I keep this up, I will marry the floor, not the prince. Amara tried, and failed to hide her smile. Patience, my lady. It is the Joseon way. Yes, yes. The Joseon way. Bend like bamboo, eat like birds, and walk like I'm floating. The maid stifled giggles. Tolani winked. If the palace wanted her to be docile, they had invited the wrong princess. Across the palace, Prince Minjun plotted his survival. His loyal aide found him in the barracks sketching what looked suspiciously like a battle plan. Your Highness, the aide asked nervously, is this strategy for the border war? Minjun shook his head grimly. No, this is my plan for the wedding night. The aide blinked. The wedding night? Yes, Minjun said, tapping the parchment. It showed a bed surrounded by a wall of pillows, a blanket fort separating two halves. Fortifications. She will stay on her side. I will stay on mine. No risk of accidental contact. The aide coughed, unsure if he should laugh or salute. That evening, Tolani caught him sneaking blankets out of the storeroom. Are those reinforcements? She asked, eyebrow raised. Minjun froze. They are supplies. Supplies? For war. For survival, he muttered. Tolani tilted her head, eyes sparkling. Ah, so the great prince of 10,000 men is preparing to do battle against his wife's elbow. He scowled. Princess, I warned you. My condition is no jest. And I warned you, she replied sweetly, stepping closer just to watch him retreat like a startled cat. That I am your doom. He sneezed twice in quick succession. She clapped her hands. Victory! I defeated you without lifting a sword. The guard standing nearby pretended very hard to study the ceiling. Later that night, Amara whispered as she combed Tolani's hair, Mistress, perhaps you should not tease him so much. They say Prince Minjun has never let a woman near him. Tolani shrugged. Good. Then I am the first. And if I am going to live in this boring place, I might as well make it fun, right? Duh. Meanwhile, Minjun sat alone in his chamber, staring at his fortress of pillows. He muttered under his breath, Why did she choose me? Of all people, why me? But when he remembered the way she had smiled, fearless, Unbothered by whispers of curses, he realized the answer unsettled him most of all. For the first time in years, he was not the one watching from the shadows. Someone was watching him, and laughing. The wedding day crept closer, and neither bride nor groom knew who would survive it. The palace courtyard blazed with color. Lanterns floated in the air like fireflies, musicians plucked zither until their fingers ached, and nobles filled the stone terraces in anticipation of Joseon's most unusual wedding. At the center, Princess Tolani Okafor descended in a crimson wedding hanbok stitched with golden thread. Her beaded crown jingled faintly with each step, a reminder of Kandari royalty woven into Joseon tradition. Behind the curtains of the men's hall, Prince Minjun scowled at his reflection. He looked every inch the groom in his red robes, but he felt like a prisoner marching to his own execution. His aide leaned in nervously. "Your Highness, perhaps today you should at least try to smile?" Minjun tugged at his collar. "I just have to get through today, so the Emperor won't kill me." "Or her," the aide muttered, then quickly bowed as Minjun glared. The drums thundered. The bride and groom were summoned. Minjun walked stiffly to the ceremonial dais, where Tolani already knelt with regal poise. She tilted her head, eyes glinting with mischief. "You look nervous, my prince," she whispered. "I am not nervous." "Really?" "Because you are sweating more than the palace cook." He sneezed once. She chuckled. The crowd gasped. The officiant cleared his throat. "By decree of His Majesty, this union binds Joseon and Kandari. Exchange the bows." They rose, facing each other. Minjun bowed sharply, avoiding her gaze. Tolani, however, leaned forward with exaggerated slowness, whispering as her crown nearly brushed his arm. "Careful! If I touch you, you may combust." He inhaled sharply, and before he could stop himself, achoo! The sneeze exploded, so loudly that pigeons took flight from the palace roof. The entire court froze. Ministers blinked in horror. The crown prince smirked. Tolani, unfazed, clapped politely. Snickers broke out among the younger courtiers. The officiant coughed into his sleeve, trying to restore order. "Let us proceed." The final step was the wine cup exchange. A servant presented 2 cups tied together with red string. Minjun hesitated as their hands nearly touched. Tolani seized the opportunity, literally. She wrapped her fingers boldly over his. "Relax, my dear husband. It's just wine, not poison." He stiffened, eyes wide. His chest tightened as if the infamous allergy would flare. But this time no sneeze came. Only the heat of her touch. Tolani noticed, smirking. "Oh, no sneezing. Perhaps the curse is broken. Or delayed," he muttered darkly, gulping the wine. The drums boomed. The marriage was sealed. Cheers erupted, though a few nobles muttered that Joseon was doomed with such a scandalous bride. As the procession carried them toward the bridal chamber, Tolani leaned closer. "So, my prince, will your pillow fortress survive tonight?" His ears turned crimson. "Princess, if you value your life, stay on your side of the bed." Tolani grinned, utterly delighted. "We'll see." The bridal chamber glowed with lanterns, red silk draped from ceiling to floor. Incense curled lazily in the air, perfuming the room with sandalwood. Tolani sat on the edge of the bed, veil cast aside, eyeing the chamber like a curious guest. Not bad. If I am to be imprisoned in marriage, at least the prison has comfortable cushions." Across the room, Prince Minjun dragged pillows onto the bed like a general constructing ramparts. He stacked them high, layer upon layer, until the middle of the mattress resembled a fortress wall. Tolani raised an eyebrow. "What is this? A honeymoon or a civil war?" "It is strategy," Minjun replied gravely, adjusting a particularly stubborn pillow. "You stay on your side, I stay on mine. There will be peace." Tolani burst into laughter. "Peace! My dear husband, you look like a man preparing for siege." Minjun scowled, though his ears betrayed a faint red. "Mock all you wish, but I warned you. My condition is not a jest." "Ah, yes," Tolani said, stretching out languidly, the fearsome sneeze curse. "I tremble in terror." She gave an exaggerated shiver. He shot her a look, then climbed onto his side of the bed, pulling the blankets tightly around him. "Stay there." "Fine," she said breezily, rolling onto her back. "But if you snore, I'll smother you with a pillow." For a long while silence settled. Only the soft crackle of candles and the distant murmur of guards outside filled the air. Tolani peeked over the wall of pillows. Minjun lay stiff as a board, staring at the ceiling like a soldier awaiting ambush. "Do you always sleep like a corpse?" she whispered. "Yes." "Romantic," she muttered. "If I had known, I'd have asked for a refund." He turned his head sharply. "A refund? Should I request a replacement prince from your emperor?" Minjun sat up, eyes blazing. "You dare!" Her laughter spilled into the room like bells. She covered her mouth but couldn't stop. His outrage only made it sweeter. He groaned, sinking back down. "Insufferable woman." "And yet," she whispered slyly, "you're smiling." He froze. He hadn't realized the corners of his mouth had betrayed him. Quickly, he rearranged his features into the familiar scowl. "You are imagining things." Tolani rolled over, nestling into her blanket. "Of course. Imagining a husband who secretly enjoys his wife's torment." Minjun closed his eyes, trying to will himself into sleep. Yet her laughter lingered in his ears. For years, his chamber had been silent, cold. Tonight it rang with mischief and warmth. Long past midnight, when he finally drifted off, Tolani peeked over the fortress again. His face had softened in sleep. "Not so fearsome now, are you?" she whispered with a grin. "Perhaps I will conquer you yet." Dawn spilled golden light over Hanseong, and with it came gossip. Lively, juicy, unstoppable gossip. The palace maids had not slept a wink. They whispered in kitchens, in corridors, even at the well. "Did you hear? The Kandari princess is fierce. She laughed at the prince in front of the emperor, and they say she shared his bed last night." "Impossible. Prince Minjun hasn't let a woman within 10 paces in years." "Then how do you explain the sneeze that shook the palace?" By the time breakfast was served, the rumors had spread faster than wildfire on dry grass. Inside the bridal chamber, Tolani stretched lazily, blinking at the fortress of pillows still dividing the bed. Minjun was already dressed, fastening his sword belt with military precision. "Good morning, my fortress husband," she yawned, propping her chin on her palm. Minjun shot her a withering glare. "You snore like a war drum." Tolani gasped dramatically. "Me? Snore? Never. A Kandari princess breathes like a flute." "You rattle the windows," he deadpanned. She threw a pillow at him, which he dodged with soldierly reflex. "Liar!" He smirked despite himself. "I have endured battlefields quieter than this chamber." Tolani grinned, victorious. "So you admit you endured me?" Minjun stiffened. "Endured, not enjoyed." "Ah," she said sweetly, "yet you didn't move to the floor." "Curious." He busied himself adjusting his sword, ignoring the heat creeping up his neck. Moments later, Amara entered with breakfast trays, bowing. She shot Tolani a knowing look but kept her lips sealed. Behind her, a servant boy nearly dropped the tea kettle when Minjun sneezed. Tolani clapped her hands together. "See, even tea fears you." The boy fled, trembling. Amara hid her smile. When they finally sat to eat, Tolani picked up her chopsticks and eyed Minjun. "So, husband, what are your plans for today? More fort building?" He exhaled slowly, patience thinning. "I will attend the morning council. Matters of state, do not wait for your comedy." "Matters of state? HM? And where do I fit in this grand council?" "You don't." Tolani leaned forward, eyes glinting. "Oh, but I will. If you think I crossed oceans just to sit in silk and embroider, you have underestimated Kandari women." Minjun paused, chopsticks midair. She was bold, fearless, so unlike the simpering noble ladies who tiptoed around him. Instead of avoiding his curse, instead of shying from his coldness, she pushed back. And annoyingly, it stirred something he hadn't felt in years. Curiosity. "Very well," he said at last, rising from the table. "Come if you dare. But don't say I didn't warn you." Tolani's grin widened. "I never fear warning labels." As they stepped into the palace courtyard together, courtiers gasped, bowing in confusion. The unwanted prince, striding with his bold foreign bride at his side, it was a sight none had dared imagine. And in the shadows, Crown Prince Jaewon watched with narrowed eyes, a slow, dangerous smile curling on his lips. Market days in Hanseong were always noisy, But that morning the buzz carried a new melody. Word had spread like fire on dry grass. The Kandari princess was visiting the streets. Vendors craned their necks, children scampered barefoot, women whispered behind sleeves. Everyone had heard of the foreign bride who mocked ministers and made the unwanted prince laugh. Few believed the rumors until they saw her. Princess Tolani arrived without a palanquin, walking beside Prince Minjun, who looked like a thundercloud forced to escort the sun. "Your Highness," whispered Amara nervously, "should you not at least wear a veil?" Tolani waved her hand. "And hide my face? How will the people know I am smiling at them?" She paused at the first stall, where a boy was selling pears. His hands trembled as he tried to bow. "Forgive me, princess. These are humble." Tolani plucked one up, bit into it with a loud crunch, and grinned. "Delicious! If all Joseon pears taste like this, I will grow fat before winter." The boy's eyes widened, then lit up with pride. Customers swarmed his stall instantly, shouting to buy what the princess herself had eaten. Minjun watched, exasperated. "You are incorrigible." "I am practical," she corrected. "One bite, and the boy's business thrives. Did your council achieve so much yesterday?" He sneezed at her words. She clapped his back dramatically. "Careful, husband. Your allergy may destroy the market." The crowd laughed. Ministers who had followed discreetly exchanged uneasy glances. The people were not supposed to laugh with princes and princesses. Respect was meant to be stiff and fearful, not warm. Yet Tolani's warmth was infectious. She crouched to greet children, teased old women about their stubborn husbands, and even haggled with a spice seller until he threw up his hands and gave her half the stall. By midday, the streets echoed with cheers. "Did you see her? She spoke like us. She said the emperor's council should listen to farmers. She called the prince her husband in the open." Minjun muttered, "You are turning the capital upside down." "Good," Tolani replied, wiping juice from her fingers. "Upside down gives a better view." From a distance, Crown Prince Jae-won observed from horseback, lips curling into a smile that did not reach his eyes. "She is dangerous," one advisor whispered. "No," Jae-won said softly, "she is useful." That evening, back at the palace, Tolani sprawled across the cushions of her chamber, recounting the day's fun to Amara. Minjun stood at the door, arms crossed, watching her laugh until tears glistened. "You know," he said slowly, "if you keep this up, half the city will see you as easygoing." Tolani tilted her head. "Half? Why not all?" He rolled his eyes but couldn't hide the tug of a smile. But beyond their chamber walls, whispers already reached the emperor. And Jae-won sharpened his schemes. The people's princess, bold and unafraid, would soon become the sharpest weapon in the crown prince's arsenal. The palace gardens were quiet that afternoon, cicadas humming in the heat. Princess Tolani wandered among the lotus ponds, trailing her fingers across the water. She had just scolded 3 ministers into silence that morning and was feeling rather triumphant. "Your Highness!" She turned to find Crown Prince Jae-won approaching with practiced elegance. His robes shimmered in shades of deep jade, his smile smooth as silk. Tolani bowed politely, though her eyes narrowed. "Crown Prince, I hear the markets adore you," he said, voice dripping with charm. "They call you the lioness who makes even Prince Minjun laugh. A rare feat." Tolani arched a brow. "Should I take that as compliment or insult to my husband?" Jae-won chuckled. "Both, perhaps. You shine where he sulks. You could be an empress, you know, if you chose the right side." Her lips curved wryly. "And which side is that?" "The one with the longest beard." Jae-won blinked, startled by her audacity, then laughed. "Truly, you are unlike anyone in this palace. No wonder my brother hides you away. He knows the court might prefer you to him." Before Tolani could retort, a shadow fell across them. Prince Minjun stood a few paces away, expression carved from stone. His hand rested on his sword hilt, though his sneezing betrayed his agitation. "Brother," Jae-won said smoothly, "your wife and I were only enjoying the gardens." Minjun's eyes narrowed. "Enjoy them less." Tolani sighed. "We were only talking." "Talking?" Minjun sneezed, glaring. "He was smiling at you." "And," she teased, "you look like you'll faint if anyone smiles at me." "That's not," he sneezed again, cutting himself off. Jae-won's smirk deepened. Perhaps your condition worsens in my presence. Should I fetch a physician? Minjun growled low in his throat. Tolani stepped between them, clapping her hands like a market mother scolding two quarrelsome boys. Enough! Is this a palace or a battlefield? Both princes blinked. Even the koi fish seemed to pause. With that, she swept past them, skirts swishing, leaving both men momentarily stunned. Later, in their chamber, Minjun sulked by the window while Tolani lounged on the cushions. You enjoyed that too much, he muttered. Minjun turned sharply. Do not trust him. His smiles are daggers. Tolani's gaze softened, though she masked it with humor. Then worry less. I am not that easy, remember. He sneezed, but beneath it, relief flickered in his eyes. The royal banquet glittered with pomp. Golden lanterns swung from carved beams, tables overflowed with dishes, and nobles draped in silk whispered behind jeweled fans. At the head table, the emperor watched like a hawk while his two sons sat in tense silence. Between them, Princess Tolani Okafor adjusted her robes and grinned. Hi, husband, she whispered to Prince Minjun. Minjun coughed into his sleeve. Do not start. Too late, she whispered. The crown prince rose with a smile smooth as polished jade. Honored ministers, he began, voice carrying across the hall. Tonight we celebrate not only Joseon's prosperity, but also our alliance with Kandari. And what better way to honor our guest princess than to have her perform a song of her homeland? Gasps rippled through the hall. Foreign princesses were expected to bow, embroider, perhaps pour tea, but sing before the entire court? Minjun's chopstick snapped in half. He glared at his brother. My prince, perhaps are you mocking my wife? 'Cause that would be a direct insult to me. Tolani, however, merely blinked, then smiled at the way he defended her. The ministers nearly choked on their rice. Before anyone could protest, she began with all due respect, my prince, my husband sees it as disrespect, then I won't be able to fulfill your request. However, my Amara is a wonderful singer and wouldn't mind giving you a taste of our music. Amara joined the stage, stomping the floor. Soon, her voice ringing bold and clear. The hall erupted. Some nobles laughed nervously, others gaped in horror, but the common servants clapped along, their faces alight. Jaewon's smile faltered. This was not humiliation, it was spectacle. Tolani finished with a playful bow. Forgive me, Joseon ears. Kandari songs are not delicate. They are alive. The emperor stroked his beard, eyes glinting. Alive indeed. Perhaps Joseon could learn from such spirit. Minjun rose, pride hidden behind his stern face. He offered his hand awkwardly. Come, princess. Tolani slipped her hand into his, grinning up at him. Careful, husband. But Minjun did not sneeze. He only stared at her with something new flickering in his gaze. Thank you so much for staying with us till this very point in the story. If you're enjoying it, please don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and leave a comment below. We'd love to hear where you are watching from, the lessons you learned from this story, and your thoughts on how we can keep improving to bring you the very best. Later, as the banquet ended, Jae-won approached with measured calm. Sister-in-law, your performance was unexpected. Tolani beamed. Unexpected? The best kind of entertainment. She swept away before he could retort, leaving the crown prince seething. Back in their chamber, Minjun crossed his arms. You embarrassed the court. I entertained the court, she corrected, flopping onto the cushions. There is a difference. You are reckless. She grinned. And you like it. Minjun opened his mouth to argue, but no words came. For the first time in years, the unwanted prince felt the stirrings of something far more dangerous than sneezes, admiration. The palace messenger arrived at dawn, bowing low. By His Majesty's command, Princess Tolani is summoned to the inner chamber. Tolani raised an eyebrow as Amara adjusted her robes. The Emperor summons me alone. What mischief is this? Amara whispered nervously. Mistress, no foreign bride has ever been called to the Emperor without her husband. Tolani smirked. Then perhaps it is time someone broke tradition. Again, when she entered the inner chamber, the Emperor sat upon a dais, his eyes sharp as a hawk's. Scrolls lay scattered on the table before him, maps and reports of grain shortages. Princess of Kandari, he said, his voice like thunder hidden in clouds. You seem to speak boldly. Tell me, do you speak from vanity or wisdom? Tolani bowed low. Neither, your majesty. I speak from hunger. When a man is full, he does not know the growl of an empty stomach. But I grew up hearing both. The emperor studied her. You would have us lower taxes on farmers, invest in land instead of palaces. What do you know of ruling Joseon? Tolani met his gaze without flinching. I know this. A kingdom that starves its people will one day find the throne toppled by the same hands that tilled its fields. For a heartbeat, silence filled the chamber. Then the emperor laughed, low and rumbling. You are bolder than half my council. Very well. I will consider your words. Tolani bowed again, hiding her small, triumphant smile. Meanwhile, Min-jun paced his chamber like a caged tiger. She's been gone for hours, he muttered, his aide bowed low. Your Highness, the emperor summoned her. Surely this is an honor. Honor! Min-jun growled. My father is not known for giving honors. He is known for testing prey before devouring it. When Tolani finally returned, Min-jun strode to her, his scowl sharp enough to cut bamboo. What did he say? Tolani removed her outer robe, deliberately taking her time. Oh, nothing much. Only that I am bolder than half his ministers. Min-jun froze. He praised you. Well, something like that. His jaw dropped. You were praised by the emperor. Tolani shrugged. Would you prefer I got scolded? He sneezed so hard that Amara nearly dropped the teapot. Tolani grinned. See, even your allergies cannot argue with me. He glared, pacing again. You must be careful. My father admires boldness but crushes threats. If he begins to see you as a rival. Tolani stepped closer, her voice softer. Then it is good I have a husband who sneezes thunder and frightens enemies. Min-jun stared at her, caught between exasperation and something far more dangerous, pride. But in the shadows of the court, the crown prince listened. His smile was thin as a blade. If the emperor admired Tolani, then Jae-won would find a way to turn that admiration into suspicion. The crown prince's smile was silk, but his eyes were daggers. He summoned the council and, with elaborate politeness, insisted Princess Tolani attend. It is only right, Jae-won said, that the bride who so boldly speaks of policy should give her wisdom on foreign trade. The ministers bowed in agreement, though unease flickered on their faces. They suspected a snare, but who dared oppose the heir? Tolani arrived with Prince Min-jun at her side, head held high. She leaned close to him and whispered, Why do I feel like a lamb led to slaughterhouse? Because you are walking into my brother's stall, Min-jun muttered grimly. On the council table lay scrolls inked with trade reports. Jae-won unfurled one dramatically. Here are figures of grain shortages in Kundari. It is said your people hoard their harvest while demanding Joseon gold. How do you explain this, princess? Gasps. Ministers leaned forward. Even the emperor's brows knit. Tolani's lips curved. Explain? Very well. In Kundari we say, if the harvest is eaten by rats, blame the rats, not the farmers. The grain shortage is due to poor shipping across seas infested with pirates, ships that Joseon promised to guard. Murmurs spread. Some ministers coughed nervously. Jae-won's smile faltered, but he pressed on. So you blame Joseon? Tolani tilted her head. Do I? Or do I simply point out that when a guard falls asleep, thieves grow bold? Laughter rippled through the chamber, though quickly muffled. Min-jun nearly choked, suppressing his own smile. She was dismantling his brother's trap with proverbs. Bold, reckless, and brilliant. Jae-won's jaw tightened. Then tell us, princess, where should Joseon's gold go, if not into ships and palaces? Tolani spread her hands. Into farmland, into granaries, into people's mouths. After all, a starving soldier cannot lift a sword, but a fed farmer can carry a kingdom. The emperor stroked his beard thoughtfully. There is wisdom in this. Jae-won bowed deeply, though his knuckles whitened on the scroll. His trap had turned to smoke. Outside the chamber, Min-jun cornered her. Do you have no fear at all? Tolani grinned, tugging at his sleeve. Fear? I had you beside me, sneezing thunder. Who would dare strike me? He caught her wrist, then quickly let go when heat surged through his chest. No sneezing, no rash, only the dizzying warmth of her skin. Tolani arched a brow. Oh, no sneeze this time. "Husband, are you cured?" he muttered. "Or perhaps I am merely doomed." She laughed, the sound bright against the stone halls. But in the shadows of the palace, Jae-won's smile returned, thin and cold. If the emperor admired Tolani's wit, then Jae-won would twist it. A whisper here, a rumor there. The Kandari princess seeks influence, perhaps even the throne. The people might adore her. The emperor might be amused. But the crown prince, he would make her brilliance into poison. The next morning, the great drum summoned the court to audience. The hall shimmered with sunlight on polished tiles, nobles fanning themselves nervously. The emperor entered, eyes gleaming with decision. Yesterday, the Kandari princess spoke wisdom beyond her station. Let it not be said Joseon wastes talent. From this day forward, Prince Minjun and Princess Tolani shall oversee the granaries of Hanseong. The hall gasped as though thunder had struck indoors. A foreign woman in charge of food stores? The very veins of the capital? Ministers sputtered into their sleeves. The crown prince bowed deeply, though his jaw was clenched tight. Minjun blinked, then bowed low. "Your Majesty, I thank you. I will do my best to keep Joseon listening." The emperor chuckled. "See that you do." As the council dispersed, whispers swirled like angry bees. "A woman given authority. She will steal our grain and send it across the sea. Or worse, she will shame the crown prince again." Minjun walked at her side, his scowl darker than usual. Tolani elbowed him lightly. "You should be proud. Your wife is now the keeper of rice." He sneezed once loudly. "Proud? You have painted a target on your back, so bright even blind assassins could see it." She smirked. "Then I hope my husband will guard me." Minjun stopped in his tracks, staring at her. His voice dropped low, sharp with sincerity. "Do not joke of this. My brother will not forgive your success. My father admires boldness, but he devours threats. You stand between them both." Tolani softened, though she disguised it with humor. "You worry too much, my husband." Later that day, she inspected the granaries herself. Rats scurried in corners, guards slept at posts, and storehouses brimmed with spoiled rice. Tolani clapped her hands sharply. This is what feeds Joseon." The startled overseer bowed frantically. "Princess, the system." "The system is rotten," she cut in. "And we will fix it. Double guards. Repair the roofs, and any man who sleeps on duty will find himself answering to the prince." Word spread quickly. The foreign princess had stormed the granaries and whipped them into order within hours. Commoners cheered. Ministers fumed. That evening, Minjun returned from training to find her scribbling notes on parchment. He leaned against the doorframe, watching her brow furrow in concentration. "You work harder than half the ministers," he muttered. She glanced up. "Someone must. And you? How was training today?" He chuckled, quietly but real. "Reckless woman." Tolani smiled, dipping her brush again. "And you like it?" He didn't deny it. Not anymore. Rumors slithered through the palace like snakes in tall grass. The Kandari princess has her claws in the granaries. First rice, next the throne. Does she mean to replace the empress herself? By dusk, even the kitchen boys whispered the tale, their hands sticky with dumpling dough. At the center of the storm was Crown Prince Jae-won, lips curved in his signature silken smile. A word here to a minister, a raised brow there to a court lady. Soon the whispers took root. When the emperor summoned the council the next morning, the air was heavy with suspicion. "Your Majesty," one minister ventured, "while the princess's enthusiasm is admirable, is it wise for a foreign woman to hold such sway? She speaks like an empress." Tolani's brows shot up. "I have no desire to wear another woman's crown." Snickers escaped some courtiers, but others scowled. Jae-won leaned forward, his voice dripping with false concern. "Sister-in-law, forgive me, but your words cut sharper than a sword. Ministers wonder if your boldness hides ambition." Tolani tilted her head, smiling sweetly. "And I wonder if your concern hides fear." The chamber froze. Minjun, sitting stiff beside her, clenched his fists beneath the table. Pride warred with panic. She was fearless, yes, but each word drew her deeper into Jae-won's net. That evening, Minjun stormed into their chamber. "Are you trying to get yourself executed?" Tolani reclined on the cushions, unbothered. "Executed? For speaking truth?" Then half your council should already be ghosts. He paced like a lion in a cage. You do not understand. My brother plays with silk threads. One whisper, and the court will strangle you with them. She sat up, gaze steady. And do you understand, husband, that fear is the leash they want around our necks? If you bow to whispers, I might as well return to Kundari in chains. His throat tightened. She was reckless, infuriating, and yet her fire made him ache with admiration. Finally, he dropped onto the cushion beside her, voice low. I would rather they call me cursed forever than see you harmed. Tolani touched his sleeve lightly, just a brush, but it sent a jolt through him. No sneeze, no rash, only heat. You are cursed, my husband, she teased softly. Cursed to have me as a wife. For once, he didn't. He smiled, but outside their chamber, J1 sharpened his plans. The whispers had taken root. Soon, all it would take was one spark, one stage betrayal, one false accusation, and the Emperor's admiration would turn into suspicion. And when that day came, the lioness of Kundari would find herself trapped in a cage she could not laugh her way out of. The lantern festival lit Joseon like a field of stars. Silk lanterns bobbed along the river, laughter spilled through crowded streets, and music wove through the night air. For once, even palace walls seemed softer under the glow. Princess Tolani walked at Prince Minjun's side, her beaded crown catching the lantern light. She clutched a candied pear, grinning like a child. Joseon festivals are delightful. Sweet fruits, bright lights, no ministers with beards. Minjun sneezed, though less from allergy and more from nerves. Stay close. Crowds are dangerous. Dangerous. She twirled, skirts swishing. Husband, I have survived you. This crowd is nothing. He scowled, but his lips twitched despite himself. Unbeknownst to them, Crown Prince J1 lurked nearby, watching. His trap had been set. A scroll bearing the Emperor's seal, forged to look like Minjun's handwriting, calling for rebellion and food hoarding in Kundari's name. Tonight, it would be discovered in her sleeve. At the height of the festival, drummers thundered as dancers spun in circles. The Emperor himself released a great lantern into the sky, its flame flickering like destiny. All eyes lifted to the heavens, except for those of J1's guards. They seized Tolani suddenly, one snatching her wrist while another pulled a scroll from her sleeve with a shout. Evidence! The foreign princess conspires against Joseon. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Ministers gaped. Soldiers drew swords. J1 stepped forward with feigned sorrow. Alas, I fear this day. My brother's bride has betrayed us all. Tolani stood frozen, fury flashing in her eyes. That is not mine. The guards unrolled the scroll. The words dripped with treason. Murmurs rose, fearful, condemning. Before anyone could move, Minjun lunged. He tore the scroll from their hands and ripped it in two with a roar. Lies! The crowd fell silent. Minjun's chest heaved, his voice thundering. Do you think I, who command armies, would not know my wife's heart? This is a trick, and only a coward hides behind forged words. J1's face darkened, though he masked it with calm. Brother, the evidence was in her sleeve. What more proof do you require? Minjun smiled, but it did nothing to weaken his glare. He drew his sword in one swift motion, its blade gleaming under the lanterns. If you accuse my wife, you accuse me, and I will cut down anyone who dares. Tolani blinked, startled by his ferocity. For all her bravado, she had not expected such a defense. Her heart twisted, caught between admiration and guilt, because if his brother pressed harder, Minjun would stand accused of treason too. The Emperor raised a hand, halting the chaos. His gaze swept from the torn scroll to Tolani, then to his two sons. The silence grew heavy. Finally, he said, We will investigate this matter. Until then, no harm shall come to the princess. Relief washed over Tolani, though she caught the cold glint in J1's eyes. This was not over. That night, in their chamber, Minjun paced like a storm. Why must you laugh at danger? Why must you provoke them? Tolani touched his arm gently. No sneeze this time, only heat. Because if I don't, they will cage me, and I would rather die laughing than live in chains. He pulled away, torn between pride and terror. For the first time, he realized his allergy was fading, but his heart was dangerously exposed. The throne hall was colder than usual. Incense coiled from bronze burners, but even its fragrance could not mask the tension hanging in the air. Princess Tolani stood before the emperor, her head high though her wrists trembled beneath her sleeves. Crown Prince Jae-won knelt gracefully at the emperor's side, faced the picture of sorrow. Prince Min-jun stood stiff behind his wife, eyes burning with restrained fury. The emperor's voice rumbled like distant thunder. Princess of Kundari, last night, treasonous words were found in your possession. Explain yourself. Tolani bowed low, her voice firm. Your Majesty, I did not write them. Someone seeks to turn your eyes against me. Jae-won leaned forward, tone silky. Father, with respect, what foreign bride would not dream of bringing Joseon to its knees? She speaks boldly, commands granaries, mocks our council. Is it not ambition dressed as candor? Gasps swept through the chamber. Ministers exchanged uneasy looks. Tolani's lips curved faintly. The emperor raised his hand. Silence fell. Princess, why should I believe you? Before Tolani could answer, Min-jun stepped forward, voice sharp. Because I believe her. If she plotted against Joseon, I would know. Her honesty cuts sharper than a blade. She cannot hide it. Brother, Jae-won said coolly, your belief is clouded by attachment. The word lingered in the air like forbidden incense. Attachment, a curse for any prince who valued loyalty to love above loyalty to throne. The emperor's gaze hardened. Attachment is weakness. Yet, he studied Tolani, his eyes unreadable. You spoke of feeding the people. Already, reports say the granaries run smoother. If you are a snake, you are at least one that clears the weeds. A few ministers choked on their breath, one dropped his fan. Min-jun pressed a hand over his mouth, disguising his laughter as a cough. The emperor's lips twitched before he concealed it with a cough of his own. Very well. You are not condemned. But know this, if one more whisper of treason crosses these walls, I will see your head on a pike. Tolani's heart thudded, but her voice was steady. Then let the whispers fear me as much as I fear nothing. That night, back in their chamber, Min-jun caught her wrist gently. No sneezing. No rash. Just the solid warmth of skin against skin. You terrify me, he muttered. Tolani tilted her head. Because I speak too much. Because one day, your courage will break me before any sword does. For once, she didn't laugh. She only held his gaze, her smile soft and dangerous. The streets of Hanseong whispered her name. Princess Tolani, vendors said, lowering their prices when they saw her. Children shouted, chasing after her robes. Farmers murmured, bowing their calloused hands. Wherever she walked, respect bloomed, not from fear but from affection. And affection was a power no decree could command. Even some ministers, once stiff and dismissive, began to waver. One old counselor bowed low after a meeting. Your Highness, I thought you reckless, but the granaries overflow where once they rotted. For that, my household thanks you. Tolani smiled warmly. Feed the people, and the people will love the throne that feeds them. Behind her, Prince Min-jun smiled. You make enemies and allies with the same tongue, he muttered. She smirked. A talented tongue, no. He nearly choked on air, turning red. Princess! Her laughter spilled through the corridors, echoing off stone walls, until even guards grinned. But not all smiled. In his private chambers, Crown Prince Jae-won smashed a porcelain cup against the floor. She turns my father's eyes, wins the people's hearts, and even makes Min-jun laugh like a fool. This foreign girl is stealing Joseon from under my feet. His advisor knelt low. Then crush her, your highness. Let the people see not a lioness, but a traitor. Jae-won's lips curved into that infamous silken smile. Yes, but this time not with scrolls, with blood. Meanwhile, Min-jun found himself restless. He watched Tolani charm merchants, tease ministers, scold lazy guards, and each time his chest tightened. He told himself it was protectiveness. She was reckless, careless, a candle dancing in storm winds. But when she caught him staring and smirked, "Careful, husband, your nose twitches when you worry," his throat locked. No sneeze, no rash, just heat. That night, he broke his own fortress of pillows, leaving the bed wide open. Tolani eyed it with mock suspicion. Ah, so the fortress has fallen. Do I claim it as conqueror, or shall I pity the defeated prince? He lay stiff on his side, glaring at the ceiling. You talk too much. And you listen, she replied, rolling closer until their shoulders brushed. No sneezing, no curses, only silence thick with things unsaid. But outside their chamber walls, the crown prince's trap began to weave tighter. Assassins were bribed, guards were replaced, and whispers planted among the people. The Kandari princess seeks more than rice. She seeks the throne itself. By the next moonrise, even loyal ministers would doubt. And when doubt ripened, Jaewon's dagger would strike, not at Minjun, not yet, but at the lioness herself. The palace courtyards shimmered beneath lantern light. Tonight was meant to be a quiet procession honoring the ancestors. Ministers walked solemnly, torches flickering against stone walls. Princess Tolani stifled a yawn as she trailed behind Prince Minjun. So serious, she whispered. Do ancestors enjoy boredom? Minjun glared. Lower your voice. I am whispering, she argued, loud enough for 3 ministers to trip over their robes. He groaned, but the corners of his mouth twitched. Then, just as the procession entered a shadowed passage, the silence shattered. From the rooftops, masked figures leapt, blades glinting. For Joseon, one cried, lunging at Tolani. Minjun's sword was out in a flash, steel ringing against steel. Guards, he roared, but the guards scattered too easily, their loyalty already bought. Tolani ducked as a blade swiped where her head had been. What is this? Ancestral dancing with knives, she quipped, snatching a fallen torch and swinging it wildly. Flames whooshed, forcing 2 attackers back. Minjun snarled, cutting down another. His fury was a storm, his sneezes forgotten. Stay behind me. Behind you. Tolani swung her torch into a masked man's face. I saved myself before your sneeze could even clear. Another assassin lunged at her side. Minjun intercepted, his blade slicing the air with deadly precision. The clash raged. Ministers fled shrieking, robes flapping like frightened birds. Only Amara clung to a pillar, eyes wide with terror. At last, Minjun struck down the final assassin, chest heaving. The courtyard fell silent except for the crackle of Tolani's dying torch. Guards rushed belatedly, too late to be of use. Minjun's glare could have cut them down. Cowards! You will answer for this. Tolani dropped the torch, her hands trembling. He whirled on her, fury and fear tangled in his voice. You jest? You could have died. She blinked, then softened. His throat tightened. For once, he didn't scold. Instead, he seized her wrist, pulling her close. His hand trembled against her skin, but still no sneeze, no rash. Only heat, fierce and unrelenting. I almost lost you, he muttered hoarsely. The words slipped between them like a vow neither had spoken before. But high above, unseen on the rooftop, Crown Prince Jaewon watched, his smile cold. His assassins had failed, but their blood left proof enough. By dawn the story would spread. The Kandari princess had drawn blades into Joseon's sacred procession. The people might still cheer her name, but the court would soon demand her head. And Jaewon would make certain the emperor listened. The throne hall thundered with accusation. Ministers lined the chamber, their voices buzzing like angry hornets. Crown Prince Jaewon stood in the center, holding a blood-stained mask from the failed assassination. Your Majesty, this was found at the procession. The assassins cried her name. The foreign princess has brought chaos into Joseon's sacred rites. She must be punished. Gasps filled the chamber. All eyes turned to Princess Tolani, who stood unflinching. The emperor's gaze was heavy. Princess of Kandari, what answer do you give? Tolani stepped forward, her tone sharp. My answer is simple. I nearly lost my head to those blades. If I hired them, I must be the worst employer alive. A few ministers choked on laughter before quickly hiding it. Jaewon's smile didn't waver. She twists with wit, but the people murmur. Already, there are whispers that she seeks more than rice. She seeks the throne itself. Tolani lifted her chin. If words could crown a woman, I would be empress twice over by now. But I have no need of crowns. My head is heavy enough keeping rice from rotting. The emperor's lips twitched, but his face remained stern. Enough jesting. You stand accused of drawing blades into the procession. A grave offense. If you cannot prove innocence, the punishment is death. The court went silent, and then Min-jun stepped forward. He bowed, voice steady but fierce. If she is guilty, then so am I, for I fought beside her. I defended her with my sword. If treason lies on her shoulders, it lies on mine as well. The hall erupted. Ministers shouted, fanning themselves like startled hens. Jae-won's eyes glittered. Brother, be careful. You admit too much. To shield her is to condemn yourself. Min-jun snared once hard, then drew his sword and slammed it into the floor with a clang that echoed like thunder. Let it be so. Better death than betrayal of the woman who has done nothing but save Joseon's grain, Joseon's people, and Joseon's pride. The emperor rose, robes billowing. Silence fell instantly. His gaze swept over his sons, one trembling with righteous fury, the other smiling like a coiled snake, and then settled on Tolani. You, he said slowly, speak with reckless fire. You, my son, defend with reckless loyalty. The court is divided, and so am I. He gestured to the guards. Tolani will be placed under house arrest until the truth is uncovered. If the assassins were indeed tied to her, she will die. If not, those who accuse falsely will answer instead. Min-jun opened his mouth to protest, but Tolani touched his sleeve, stopping him. Her eyes gleamed with mischief even in chains. Even the emperor's beard twitched. But as guards led her away, Min-jun's jaw hardened. He knew Jae-won would not rest until she was gone. If the court wanted a trial, then Min-jun would bring them one. And he would fight not with sneezes, but with truth, and a sword if necessary. The throne hall brimmed with tension. Ministers packed the chamber, eager to see whether the Kundari princess would fall or rise. Crown Prince Jae-won stood tall, his smile sharp as a blade. Tolani knelt in the center, wrists bound in silk cords. Prince Min-jun stood beside her, sword sheathed but fury burning in his eyes. The emperor's voice cut through the silence. Today we decide truth. If Princess Tolani brought assassins into our sacred procession, her life ends. If not, his gaze shifted to Jae-won. The liar shall pay. Jae-won stepped forward smoothly. Father, the evidence is clear. The assassins carried her mark. They shouted her name. Who else could be behind it? Tolani laughed suddenly, startling the court. Forgive me, but if assassins cried my name, perhaps I should be angry not for treason, but for theft of reputation. To hire fools so loud? Insulting. Even the emperor's beard twitched. Min-jun seized the moment. He strode to the center and threw a bundle onto the floor, bloodied coin purses, an instruction note embroidered with Jae-won's crest. Gasps rippled through the chamber. These were taken from the corpses of the assassins. Min-jun thundered. They carried not my wife's embroidered note, but Crown Prince. The ministers erupted. Some shouted denials, others covered their faces in horror. Jae-won's calm cracked. Forgeries! Lies spun by a desperate brother. The emperor's gaze darkened. Guards! Seize him! For the first time, Jae-won's smile vanished. He stumbled back as soldiers closed in. Father, you cannot! I am the heir. The emperor's voice was steel. An heir who plots murder is no heir of mine. The guards dragged Jae-won away, his shouts echoing like a man clawing at a crumbling throne. Silence fell. All eyes turned to Tolani, still kneeling. The emperor regarded her long and hard. You are reckless. Your tongue is sharp, your wit sharper. Yet you have fed the hungry, shamed the corrupt, and unmasked betrayal. You are no mere foreign bride. You are one of us. Tolani bowed low. The court laughed, nervous but genuine. Min-jun's ears turned red, but pride flickered in his gaze. The emperor raised his hand. Rise, princess. No longer bound. Let it be known. Prince Min-jun and his Kundari wife stand under imperial protection. Their loyalty strengthens Joseon. That night, in the quiet of their chamber, Min-jun dropped onto the cushions, exhausted. You nearly died. Again. Tolani grinned, leaning close. And yet I lived. Again. Because my husband guarded me. He caught her chin gently. No sneezes, no distance. No fortress. Only man. And he is yours. Their kiss silenced the palace whispers at last. Outside, lanterns swayed in the night breeze. For once, Joseon slept in peace, its lioness and her once-cursed prince standing together, stronger than any throne. Thank you so much for staying with us till the very end of the story. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and leave a comment below. We'd love to hear the lessons you learned and your thoughts on how we can continue improving to give you the very best. Here at Munlyt Stories, every tale is crafted with passion, care, and dedication. Our mission is simple: to entertain, inspire, and connect us all across cultures and hearts. So, keep the conversation alive in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new episode. Till next time, we are Munlyt Stories, bringing you amazing tales that touch hearts and spark imaginations. Stay blessed, stay inspired. See you in the next story.